So at the end of the last video, we had Fedora 26 installed with all of the updates. Today we're going to be installing and configuring DOSBox. Now, in order to install software, you need to have software repositories. If we go into DNF Dragora, you will see that we only have the default repositories in Fedora, being the official Fedora software and official updates software. What we are going to do is we are going to add another repository into this, and that repository is called RPMFusion. This is going to contain software that Fedora have decided that they do not want to supply, but is perfectly good and useful anyway. We do that by going into Firefox and typing a search for RPMFusion repo Fedora 26, repo being another word for repository. Once the search is complete, you will find, once I type in the search, you will find the top entry there is for the configuration of RPMFusion. If we click on that link, we will be taken to a list of configuration options. These are contained within RPM files, which is what we're about to download. It is simply a case of finding the Fedora 26 files, clicking on them, and waiting for Firefox to download them. You do get the choice of being able to open them in DNF Dragora, but I prefer to save them locally and run them separately. Plus it means that if something happens, I have the files, I can run them without having to download them again. They are very small files. They only take a second or two to download. I think in total, both of the files are about 50K, so it's not much at all. So we're going to go ahead and save the first file. You can see that it's already finished. We are now going to go back and get the non-free file. Now that we have the files, we are going to go and install them. I prefer to do it via the command line, but you can do it through DNF Dragora if you wish. I have to convert into the root account because that is the only one that can install software. Prompts for my password. I then slowly change my way into the downloads directory until I find the RPM files. And there they are. And I run the RPM command to install each of the files in turn. Not only are they small to download, they are also very quick to install because of that. Now that that's all done, we can go back into DNF Dragora. If we have a look at the repositories, we now have a couple of additional repositories in place. And there you go, you can see that we have RPMFusion in place, and a couple of others as well. So now we've got all that in place, we can now start our installation of DOSBox. Basically, instead of looking for updates, we look for all software. This is going to check all available repositories. It will then give us a list of every single piece of software available, but we are going to use the search command to search for, what a surprise, DOSBox. And there we go, ready to install. Simply tick on the box and click apply. Like we did with the updates, we will then be prompted for the dependencies. We will also be prompted for entering the root password. And once those are done, it is off to the races to install DOSBox. Once that is installed, you will find DOSBox on the menu. If you go to administration, you will see DOSBox has been highlighted because it's just been installed. Click on that, and there we go, we have DOSBox installed. We do need to do a little bit of configuration. I'd like it to map a drive to my local file system. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do that. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to create a directory within my home directory, and I'm going to call it DOS Games. So there's my home directory there. I create a new folder, call it DOS Games, and yep, we have one. To prove the concept, I'm going to create a quick test file in there called test.txt. This is just to prove that this really is the drive that I am mapped to. Inside there, we just give ourselves a quick message, save the file. So there it is. So when we go into DOSBox, if we use the mount command, we will be able to map a C drive to that location. The tilde is a representation for my home directory. So when we do a listing, you can see that we have our test file there. We have the drive mapped. Now, in order to map that automatically, you can go into the configuration file. It is a hidden file, so you will have to show the hidden files. And that directory is under the .dosbox directory. And there it is, dosbox074.conf. I'm going to make a copy of it just in case I screw it up hideously. Right down the bottom, if you go down to the bottom of the jar after I spread it out a bit, you will see that it has an area that you can add your own commands. We are going to put in that exact same mount command into that location, save the file, and if we reopen DOSBox, you will find that C drive is now mapped automatically. We can do the directory search and there is our test file again. You can put basically anything you like in there to make life a little easier for you. I'm going to put a couple of extra commands just to make it a bit easier. And if we rerun DOSBox, you will find that it will now automatically map C drive, change to it, and give me a directory listing. Just like that. I don't need to put the dir at the bottom there, so I am going to remove that from my configuration file. And just save it there. The last thing to do is to create a desktop shortcut so we don't have to keep on going in there. If you right click on the file, you will find that there is an option to add to desktop. That's all there is to it. Really simple stuff there. And if we close down all of the boxes here, you will find that we have our desktop icon. Clicking on that will launch DOSBox directly, and you will find we have our C drive mapped. So that's how you configure DOSBox. The next thing we are going to do is start copying some programs in there and run some DOS games, and we'll see you then.